everyone. Today's topic is about a legend. A legend that keeps giving back to its community and keeps talking to everyone. I'm talking about Fela. The father of Afrobeat, revolutionized music in all of Africa. He's a big deal. I don't want to sing his song because of copyright flagging, but Fela got a little bit of jazz going when you listen to him. You get the upbeat when you hear him. So in today's story about Fela, before we can start Fela, we need to understand the fire behind African music father. His story resonates rhythm, family, fire, and most importantly, freedom. Kind of like the sound of freedom of Nigeria. In my opinion, that's Fela Kuti. But in order for us to understand who Fela is and how he came about, it's worth noting we first honor his mother, a mother who moved mountains, literally and figuratively. As she gave birth to a son, Fela, that moved the world, she, on her own rights, she created something. And this is a good story to tell. Chief Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. That's who we're going to talk about first before we get into Fela. So, fun fact about Chief Funmilayo Kuti. She was the first woman to drive a car in Nigeria. I told you, she was moving mountains figuratively and literally. First woman to drive a car in Nigeria. Let that sink in. She was born in October 15th in Abeokuta, Ogun State of Nigeria. Her birth name was Frances Abigail Oluwafunmilayo Thomas, later known as Chief Funmilayo Ransom. This after she married and she has achieved some goals. So we're just going to call her Mama Kuti. So Mama Kuti, raised in a conventional conservative family in the Yoruba land from an aristocratic family, which is before Nigeria's independence. Her dad was one of the chiefs in the Yoruba land or Yoruba kingdom that ruled and made decisions. So she kind of understood how things worked from an early age. She was kind of out there and seeing it. Starting from her father to her to Fela, reminds me about this passage when they were like, kindle the flame. Remember your mother, your grandmother Eunice, and your mother Lois. Kind of gives me that vibe. Remember your grandfather Thomas and your mother Funmilayo. And then we get Fela and he goes one word. You got to be that important for people to call you Thomas and they know which Thomas they're talking about. In Nigeria, and Chief Funmilayo and then Fela. Great family, great history, which is what we're going to go through. Other than being the first woman to drive a car in Nigeria, she was also awarded the Order of the Niger, which is one of the prestigious medals that you give to a civilian in Nigeria. So she was honored. She was an educator, a pioneer. She was also the first female student to attend the Abeokuta Grammar School. Another first female to join the Abeokuta Grammar School. She also organized preschool classes and literacy programs for lower class income women. So she was one of the earlier people that was pushing for female education within the region of Nigeria. What a woman. And she laid the foundation for feminists in the education system and across the continent of Africa. She wasn't just influential in Nigeria, she was also influential outside Nigeria in terms of the Pan-African movement and also socialist agenda to protect the vulnerable and lower income. I wouldn't say she was a socialist. I don't want people running out there thinking like, ooh, she was anti-capitalism. Again, she drove a car and she went to school. Kind of a little bit of capitalism in her. But she was more interested in supporting lower income people, right? That's the whole point of the socialist agenda that she promoted. And she was a good activist. So, quick summary of Funmilayo and what she has done so far. She organized one of the first protests for women's rights in Nigeria, and she also helped them in the Women's Union. She was the vice president of the Women's International Democratic Federation. Right, this happened around 1953. 1953, she was the vice president of that organization, and she partook in an independent movement for global feminist network around the continent, also in the USA and in London. London was the superpower at that time, and everything was happening in London. So she was a clear activist there. During the decolonization of the country, when Nigeria was about to get its independence, she was targeted by the colonial authorities, right? She was one of those names, like, for lack of a better word, she was making what they call good trouble. I can't remember the congressman that spoke about good trouble, but right, she kind of reminds me of that, right? Like, you were known like, oh, she was really fighting for women, fighting for independence, and they're like, you lady, you're making trouble. While the Nigerians were like, yeah, she's making good trouble to help our cause for independence. She also led the Nigerian branch of International League for Peace and Freedom, advising anti-colonial network. She also advocated for other countries trying to get their independence and also trying to stop the colonial regime and everything that was happening. So a quick summary again. In the 1940s, she established the Abeokuta Women's Union, which was a big deal. And then in 1948, she was forced to abdicate her leadership role in the union. In 1953, she became the vice president of Women's International Democratic Federation. Between 1957 and 1958, the British denied her passport and the US denied her visa to come visit. And this was all happening during independence era. So there was a lot of tension. Post World War II independence era, there was a lot of tension going on. And she also led the Nigerian branch of the Women International League for Peace and Freedom, 1963. This is after independence and after Nigeria became a republic. So some recognitions and honor of our great mommy Kuti. Other than being awarded the Lynn Peace Award, indoctrinated into the Order of the Niger, her story also inspired great leaders like one of the first Ghanaian presidents spoke out vocally that her passion and her advocacy was one of the sparks or kindles that brought him into politics. In 2022, there was a biopic made about her, and in 2024, there was also a Broadway play made about her. Mama Kuti died at the age of 77. That was a rich age for back in the days. Google life expectancy during World War I and World War II. She lived to 77 during that time. She did good. But her death wasn't a natural cause. Sadly, her death was caused by a raid in attack of her son Fela. And when they entered their little community called the Kalakuta community, she was pushed out of a window, sustained some injury, and she died because of those injuries. So tough time. But more on that story as we cover Fela. So now we get into Fela, the birth of a revolutionary, her son. From Funmilayo's dad that was an aristocrat to his daughter, Funmilayo, that became one of the Nigeria that worked behind the scene to help Nigeria get their independence. Then comes her son, Fela Kuti. Born on October 15th. Again, born on October 15th. The same date as his mother, coincidentally. Maybe something about that day. He grew up in a nice household. He schooled in London in the Musical Foundation at the Trinity College of Music. He studied formal and informal first-hand band making. And this was what inspired him to create the Afrobeat. So the Afrobeat is a mixture of jazz, funk, and high life with raw instrumentals. So him schooling abroad, seeing firsthand, witnessing his mother fighting for Nigerian independence and women's rights, these were all the inspirational ingredients that created the Afrobeat. In 1969, he toured the United States and he was inspired by movement of the Black Panthers and Malcolm X. So the Black Panthers and Malcolm X are two civil rights heroes in America that fought against segregation of the Black community and fought for equal rights for the Black community. And then when he returned to Nigeria, his band was renamed Africa 70. I might be saying that wrong, but it's African 70, I see, reflecting the new Pan-African identity. And he began to make music unlike anything the world have ever seen, because it was Afrobeat, born of a new type of beat. So, quick summary before we get into his legacy and his history. He was born October 15th, same day with his mother, 1938, in Abeokuta, Nigeria. His full name is Olufola Olusegun Olatun Ransome-Kuti. Trained in London for his music career, and his band was part of a revolutionary band that created the Afrobeat in Nigeria, which was really fun. So, what is Afrobeat? Afrobeat is a West African genre fusing a lot of Yoruba rhythm. So, primarily known for the Yoruba rhythm, high life, American funk, jazz, and soul. That would be a nice way to summarize it. I think that there's some things that were inspired from Ghana. I'm trying to think about it. The dance and the music. So the Afrobeat, the dance and the music primarily comes from Ghana and Nigeria. You see, Ghanaians, like Nigerians, we like you. You just need to forget about the whole idea of the Ghana must go controversy that happened a long, long time ago. And we can both agree that both nations did not invent jollof rice. We can agree on that. Not talking about whose tastes better. We can just agree it didn't come from our countries. So we kind of get the whole funk, like, and when I mean funk, well, give honor to who honor is due. We got the James Brown funk. That's what we mean. James Brown, his whole American funk rhythm was what fell into it. So we understand what Afrobeat is. We understand the genre, and we know who the father of Afrobeat is, who is Fela Kuti. And his song went for long, almost like he was the Joe Rogan of songs back in the day. Like listening to a Joe Rogan podcast goes for 2 to 3 hours. And his song lasted for 10 to 15 minutes, long, complex rhythms. And then he started to use his song for something very important. Started using it for political activism. And this was the period after Nigeria had gained its independence and there had been multiple coups and multiple killings, and then the military started ruling Nigeria. He decided to use his voice as a sound for revolution. Born in Lagos and spread all over Africa and now all over the world. He started to sing, and this brought about the shrine. I don't come up with this. They're the ones that say there's the shrine where the Afrobeat became a religion between 1970 and 1975. Again, when they say it became a religion, you got to think about it in this sense of, I don't know how much you know about the Elvis Presley and the jazz revolution, or anything you know about the jazz revolution. It was like, that was the music from hell, that jazz music. And that's what they called it. Now it's very regular for everyone to drive their car and listen to jazz and have a good time. But when it came out, it got people moving. It had a little bit of James Brown, had a little bit of jazz, got a little bit of Yoruba Afrobeat going. Yeah, allegedly it became a religion. Not a successful one for religion, because the religion part only lasted for 5 years, but the beat and the rhythm keeps moving till tomorrow. So Africa 70, his band, they had their shrine where they had their music festivals and where they had fun. And that's literally what I would say. It's almost like the hippies. Not trying to use the word hippie as a derogatory statement. It's almost like the hippies revolution. Love music and let's have fun. That's what he was doing with his people down there at the shrine. Rather than call it the shrine, I rather call he named the location. So rather than call it a shrine, for those that think calling it a shrine makes it look bad, he had his own republic, and I kid you not, it was called the Kalakuta Republic to fight against military rule. So he had founded in 1970. So if you call it the shrine or a religion, you need to see those statements as allegedly, perhaps, maybe a propaganda spread by somebody, I don't know, I wouldn't name names, to destroy the movement. But it was called the Kalakuta Republic, founded in 1970. In yours truly, in Nigeria. Located in number 14A Agege Motor Road, Lagos, Kalakuta Republic. That was where it was located. Can't believe I pronounced that name well. Oh, I think I did. In Fela's home recording studio, that was where all the music and the magic was made. There were multiple confrontations with power. His album Zombie released in 1977, and then in that 1977, the army raided his home, and the government destroyed the Kalakuta Republic. So let's get this straight. His shrine only lived to 75, and then his republic was destroyed in 77, and this was where his mother, Chief Funmilayo, was thrown from a window, and she sustained significant injury to never recover from. So remember at the beginning I said we will get back to the cause of her death. It was in the Kalakuta Republic. This was done during the government of Muhammad Buhari, the former president before Tinubu. This was when he was the military head of state, and they raided the Kalakuta Republic, and she was pushed through the window and never to recover. May her soul rest in peace. In 1979, Fela formed the Movement of the People Political Party and ran for presidency of Nigeria. It was unsuccessful, but he did run for the presidency of Nigeria. And in 1984, he was jailed again during the Buhari's military government. So that's a quick pick of Fela. He was released. His music went on. He had a successful music career. His influence went wide into the Western world. We have a lot of people crediting him in the hip hop community, from Missy Elliott to J. Cole to Beyonce to Kanye West, and also in Nigeria, top musicians like Burna Boy, Wizkid, and Asa or Asha. You guys know who I'm talking about. They all openly cited Fela as a fundamental inspiration of their music and how they create music. A Broadway show was made in honor of his musical festival by Jay-Z and Will Smith. It was nominated for 11 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. In 2026, this year, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame of Rock and Roll, which was what inspired the creation of this video to honor Fela for his great achievement, while also honoring his mother on Mother's Day for everything she did for her country, and also giving us the gift of Fela. And thanks to all he has done, they've had an annual celebration. There's an annual celebration of the Fela Festival, which has been held since 1998 in his honor, which is a good thing, which is a very, very good thing. In August 2nd, 1997, Fela passed away. People attended his funeral. According to the head count, they say over 1 million people showed up for his funeral. His son carried on his legacy in his band and singing his song. His daughter also created a museum for the Calcutta Republic, which is now called the Calcutta Museum, and it has all his Afrobeat and his Afro shrine. And every October since 1998, Felaboration, which is the word, the Felaboration Festival is still held. So if you're ever in the area and you ever see a Felaboration Festival, hey, stop by, have some fun with them. The fire is still burning till today. Fela has inspired a great number of people. The beats of Afrobeat and everywhere in Africa, and Afrobeat being recognized around the world, and is the fastest growing music genre everywhere. In Black community, in Latino community, there's even now Afrobeat Latino, which was also inspired by the Fela rhythm. So safe to say, Fela and his mother's legacy would live on in the living music, enduring resilience and resistance, and the scholarly recognition of Afrobeat in the music department, in the Broadway department, and in Hall of Fame. So to Chief Mama Funmilayo Kuti, thank you, and to Fela Kuti, Godspeed.